Let us all die together. Seconds later, he is cut in half by a cannonball.
Holy shit. Wow, saw this, but I was too busy doing members week. Let's make sure the quality is good here. All right, let's get into it.
In 1792, the French Revolution sparked a European conflict that would last a generation. A struggle for mastery of Europe and the world. A contest fought on land and sea. In this war of shifting alliances, the most enduring rivalry was between France and Britain. Britain could not challenge France on land, but at sea, it was a different matter. Britain's Royal Navy was as dominant on the waves as Napoleon was to prove on land. And in an age when Britain had many skilled naval commanders.
Yeah, so... Yeah, to be expected of Britain having such a dominant navy, but you know what is impressive is France being like a land power, you know, being like bordering like so many countries, and France was still able to have a navy to threaten Britain. Like, I want you to think about that for a second. France, at its peak, had a navy. The problem is that France's navy was split, but the navy was actually like big enough to more than threaten Britain. You know, it really makes you wonder, right? People always say, oh, the Royal Navy, bro, the Royal Navy. Britain always had that advantage because Britain was literally at the corner of Europe. It was an island. So it was like, okay, when a war begins, it just has to protect its corner, literally, in one single spot. France didn't have that luxury, right? So, you know, Britain, really and truly, right? Britain had it on recruit difficulty. Literally recruit difficulty. Like, but I'm giving credit to France. I'm not really talking about Britain here. I'm giving credit to France. The fact that France was still able to have both an immense land army to dominate Europe, be the juggernaut of Europe for a long ass time, and still have a navy that was on par with the Royal Navy. It's just that it was split. Damn, you gotta don't downplay the French Navy. Don't downplay that French Navy, bro.
One stood out above the rest. Horatio Nelson, bold, inspiring, and brilliant. For the British, he'd become a national hero and legend. These are the stories of his greatest battles. March 1801. A British battle fleet sails across the North Sea. More than 50 vessels in all, commanded by Admiral Sir Hyde Parker. His second in command, Vice Admiral Lord Nelson. Their destination, the Danish Straits. Their target, Copenhagen. 9 months have passed since Napoleon's victory at Marengo shattered the Second Coalition. In its wake, Austria makes peace with France. Paul, Emperor of Russia, has also withdrawn from the coalition and is now considering switching sides and making an alliance with France. The cause? His fury at Britain's recent actions. Britain, which, having captured Malta from the French, refuses to hand it back to its original owners, the Knights of St. John. of which Paul is Grand Master. Britain, which believes its naval blockade against France entitles it to stop, search and detain neutral ships at will. The insults and grievances have grown over many years, and in 1800, the neutral nations decide to act. Under Paul's leadership, Russia, Prussia, Sweden and Denmark put aside their differences to form a league of armed neutrality to uphold their rights at sea. For Britain, the League presents a dangerous threat. If they cannot search neutral ships, they believe their blockade of France will be fatally undermined by smuggling. A hostile Baltic threatens the source of their essential naval supplies, such as timber. Worse yet, if Russia, Denmark and Sweden decide to take on Britain directly, their combined fleets will pose a formidable challenge. Britain decides it must strike first to break up the League, and it will target its weakest and most exposed member first, Denmark.
You know, this is the thing about the Royal Navy, right? Is the Royal Navy, it always like has this habit of just surprise attacking people left, right, and center. I mean, like, really, bruh. The Royal Navy was still skilled. You know what's funny, actually? You know what's really funny? When the Royal Navy, right? The Royal Navy, when it actually met its match at the Battle of Jutland, the Germans won that battle. They won that battle. But it's just that the Royal Navy had such overwhelming amount of ships that, you know, they were able to take the heat. But historians conclude that that battle was actually a German victory. The Germans were giving the Royal Navy such a run for its money in both World Wars. I'm saying this because it's kind of like, is the Royal Navy low-key overhyped? Now, I know you could say, oh, but the Battle of Trafalgar. The Battle of Trafalgar, it was not really the Royal Navy was skilled. It was more like the French lost themselves. The French made stupid decisions that costed them that battle. Like, although the French completely got their freaking asses whooped in the Battle of the Nile. Now, here's the thing with the word overrated. Overrated does not mean bad. Okay? Overrated does not mean bad. It just means it's just kind of gassed up a bit than what it actually really seemed to be. Just my personal opinion. Like, the Royal Navy was great, but it's low-key like overhyped, bro. Like, I'm not gonna lie, bro.
Admiral Sir Hyde Parker has been dispatched to Copenhagen with a powerful fleet and an ultimatum for the Danes. Quit the League and grant the British safe passage through the Straits, or be attacked. The League of Armed Neutrality was meant to guarantee Danish security. Instead, it has put her in the firing line of the world's most powerful navy.
With Google Play.
Admiral Sir Hyde Parker has received his command on the basis of seniority, and because he has experience of planning operations in the Baltic, though he has never actually been there. He is well liked, but will soon exhibit a frustrating pattern of indecision and delay, to the exasperation of his second-in-command, Lord Nelson. The hero of Cape St. Vincent, the victor of the Nile, Nelson's adored by the public and admired by comrades as a daring commander. He has the scars to prove it, having lost an arm and now blind in one eye. The British fleet consists of 19 ships of the line, 5 frigates, and many smaller ships for navigating the shallow waters of the Danish Straits. These include sloops, brigs and bomb ships, armed with mortars for high-angle fire. They also carry 900 marines for attacking shore defences.
Yo, flashbacks to freaking Hofast, Nations at War. Yo, I have not played that game in such a long ass time, bro. I haven't really played any games in a long ass time. Don't really got the time to. So, but well, yo, hold fast, bro. That shit is fire.
Another ship of the line, HMS Invincible, is en route to join Parker's task force when she is shipwrecked off the Norfolk coast with the loss of 400 lives. After a week of sailing, the British fleet enters the Kattegat Strait and dispatches the frigate Blanche with the ultimatum for Denmark. 3 days later, Blanche returns. The Danes have rejected the British terms. The ultimatum puts the Danes on high alert. But with the Russian fleet still iced into its Baltic ports, and the Swedes still preparing for action, now is the moment to strike against an isolated enemy. Not a moment should be lost in attacking the enemy, Nelson writes to Parker. They will every hour and day be stronger. We shall never be as good a match for them as at this moment. Instead, winds and Parker's indecision combine to delay the fleet's advance for several days. The British do not arrive off Copenhagen until the 30th of March. The Danish fleet is outclassed and outnumbered. It would be madness for it to come out and fight. So to reach it, the British must sail into Copenhagen harbour. That night, Admiral Parker and Nelson approach by boat for a closer look. Had the British sailed without delay, they would have found the Danish defences half complete and undermanned. But on the eve of battle, they appear stronger than expected.
I don't know how this battle went in full detail. I only just know about it because of oversimplified. So this is really new to me here.
The approach to Copenhagen's harbour is dominated by a narrow, deep-water channel known as King's Deep. Along its edge, the Danes have anchored 18 warships in line. Many are dismasted hulks, not fit for sea, but they can still act as powerful floating gun platforms. They are supported by several smaller ships and shore batteries, many manned by inexperienced but patriotic volunteers. Guard ships protect the harbour's northern entrance, as well as the dangerous Trikroner fort, housing 65 heavy guns and 3 mortars.
Ooh.
Potentially just as dangerous as the Danish defences, the shoals, which must be carefully navigated to bring the British safely into King's Deep. Copenhagen will be a tough nut to crack. But for all his faults, Admiral Parker knows Nelson's qualities and hands him complete responsibility for planning and leading the attack.
How the hell are they gonna... Whoa. I'm really hyped to see this now.
his attack, Nelson asks Parker for just 10 ships of the line. Parker gives him 12. While Parker and the heaviest ships stand off to the northeast, Nelson will lead his ships, supported by Captain Ryu's frigate squadron and the smaller vessels, in an attack from the south. On the 1st of April, Nelson sails down the outer channel in full view of the Danes and drops anchor to await a favourable southerly wind for the attack. That evening, Nelson invites all his captains to dine aboard HMS Elephant, where together they toast a leading wind and victory. He then spends the night writing out precise instructions for every captain, specifying their targets, while Captain Hardy goes out by boat to take soundings of the depth of the channel under the very noses of the enemy. The entire Danish fleet would be a close match for Nelson's force in terms of firepower. But many Danish crews have been hastily thrown together, a mix of soldiers, sailors and civilians, many with little training or experience.
Oh dear.
While Nelson's plan
Oh dear, that's, yeah, no.
means his firepower will be focused on just a section of the Danish line, defending King's Deep. Next morning, Nelson gets his wind, and at 9:30 a.m, the British fleet is underway, with HMS Edgar in the lead. But disaster strikes immediately. Nelson's old ship, HMS Agamemnon, cannot clear the middle ground shoal and runs aground. It's an ominous start for such a hazardous operation. Half an hour later, Edgar comes within range of Provistine at the southern end of the Danish line. And she opens fire. One by one, Danish and British ships join the action. The lead British ships follow Nelson's orders to the letter. As each ship reaches its allotted position, it drops anchor and begins to blast its targets at close range. The ships behind pass on the outer side to reach their own stations. Lines up against the Danish flagship Danabru. Ardent against Kronborg. Edgar takes on Ulan and the floating batteries Nubor and Ransborg. Isis against Vagri.
Bro, I had to take a second to process what he did. Bro, my brain, that. Bro, I'm like, hold on a second, who? I'm like, hold on a second. Wait, what time period is this? This is the Ocean 2. Why are they there? Like, that completely threw my head off, bro.
But from his flagship, Nelson sees Bellona strayed too close to the middle ground shoal. His desperate signals cannot stop her going aground. Nelson makes sure to avoid Bellona's error, then anchors HMS Elephant in Bellona's intended position. From here, Elephant takes on the floating battery Grenier and the converted horse transport Agershus. To emphasize the dangers of the shoal, Nelson raises signal 16, engage the enemy more closely. With two ships grounded, Nelson has to improvise and shouts orders to each passing ship, redirecting them to new targets. Soon, Ganges is taking on Elephant's intended target, Shailen. Monarch engages Charlotta Amelia and the floating battery Soesten. Defiance takes on Holstein. But HMS Russell becomes disoriented in the thick smoke and grounds alongside Bellona. The battle has just started, and already 3 of Nelson's most powerful ships are immobilized.
Home field advantage goes crazy, bro.
Captain Ryu's frigate squadron, however, is about to step into the breach. The 36-gun HMS Désirée takes up her position to rake the southernmost Danish ships, while Captain Ryu himself, aboard HMS Amazon, leads the rest of the frigate squadron towards the head of the British line to take on unengaged Danish defences and Trecroner Fort. By 11 AM, all the British ships of the line are engaged, and an immense artillery duel begins. Despite the loss of 3 ships, Nelson's hurried improvisation means he has still been able to concentrate his force against the southern half of the Danish line. British gunnery gives them the upper hand, but the Danes are putting up a fierce resistance. Many of the crews that man the anchored Danish warships and hulks are inexperienced. Some have arrived only hours before the fighting began. But their bravery in the heat of battle is remarked upon by all, including their enemy.
Yo!
At
Respect,
the head of the British line, HMS Monarch and Defiance are in the most exposed position, taking on multiple enemies and within range of Trecroner Fort. Monarch has already lost her captain, James Moss, killed by a cannonball. His ship will suffer around 40% casualties, with 56 dead and 164 wounded. But the well-drilled British gun crews are also wreaking havoc. At 11:15, the floating battery Ransborg has to abandon her position in the line and drifts into the shoals. The Danish flagship Dannebrog has taken heavy damage from Elephant and Glatten. With fires breaking out, the Danish commander, Commodore Fisher, transfers his command to another ship. Under incessant fire, the centre of the Danish line begins to give way. The battered frigate Elven drifts north to safety. Nubor tows Agershus out of the line of fire and
That, bro, yo, this battle is something else, bro. Bro, wow.
both are deliberately run aground before
I really don't know how this shit ends or any details at all. So I'm just like watching this with awe right now. Like, I'm honestly coming in blind here.
all of Shailen's 74 guns are silent, and she is taking on water. She drifts north, but drops anchor in order not to obstruct Trecroner Fort's guns. Then, she strikes her colours.
Damn, bro. Oh my god.
Admiral Parker's heavy ships are still 2 or 3 miles off, struggling to make progress against a headwind. The Commander-in-Chief cannot see much of the battle through the thick smoke, but he can see 2 grounded ships signalling for assistance. At 1:15 p.m, he raises signal 39 ordering his fleet to break off the action. When the signal is pointed out to Nelson, he turns to Captain Foley, commanding HMS Elephant. "You know, Foley, I have only one eye, and I have a right to be blind sometimes." Then, putting his telescope to his blind eye, quips, "I really do not see the signal." In fact, Parker's intention is to give Nelson the opportunity to withdraw with honor if he deems it necessary. Parker fully expects Nelson to ignore the order if there is any chance of victory. Nelson acknowledges Parker's signal, but does not repeat it to his ships. His fleet continues the battle.
What a G, bro.
North,
What a G,
Ryu
bro.
also sees Parker's signal, but through the smoke, he cannot see that Nelson has not repeated it.
Oh.
His frigates are now in heavy action against Trichrona Fort, which packs triple the broadside of each ship.
Oh dear.
Ryu reluctantly gives the order to withdraw. HMS Amazon is the last to leave, and as it turns, it is raked through the stern by the fort's guns. Amidst the carnage, Ryu shouts, "Come then, my boys, let us all die together." Seconds later, he is cut in half by a cannonball.
Holy shit. I was not expecting that. Whoa.
Despite the loss of Captain Ryu, the British are clearly gaining the upper hand. But as British boats advance to take possession of surrendered enemy ships, Danish batteries continue to fire. It's a breach of the customs of naval warfare. Nelson is furious.
I mean, shit, literally fighting to the last man, bro. I gotta give it to them, bro. Bruh, not going down until they're fully down.
He sends a threat to the Danes, carried by boat, under a white flag. Lord Nelson has directions to spare Denmark when no longer resisting. But if the firing is continued, Lord Nelson will be obliged to set on fire all the floating batteries he has taken, without having the power of saving the brave Danes who have defended them.
I might get
The letter is taken straight to Crown Prince Frederick of Denmark, watching the battle from Copenhagen's citadel. By the time it reaches him, many more Danish ships are out of action, as the British train their guns north. HMS Defiance now advances to take on Holstein, the new Danish flagship. She takes such a battering that Commodore Fisher is forced to move his flag once more, this time to Trichrona Fort. Holstein surrenders, followed by Soeston. Inford Stretton's capitulation at 3 p.m. confirms the defeat of the northern part of the Danish line. To the south, Dannebrog, Jylland, Kronborg and Sverfisken have also struck their colours. Hayen follows shortly after.
Bro, that is mad.
With Dannebrog's fires out of control.
Bro, this is just... Honestly, it's the way how the Danes are fighting back, bro. I thought the Danes were gonna get, like, washed off. But, holy, yo... They had that home field advantage, but yo, they still I'm impressed. I'm impressed by the Danes. I was not expecting this level of resistance. I'm lost for words, bro. I can't even describe it. I'm just like, okay, I see you, Denmark. I see you, man. All right, I got to put some respect on Denmark.
British boats are sent to help remove the crew. After 4 hours of fierce fighting, Danish resistance is finally coming to an end. Shortly after 3 p.m., Crown Prince Frederick of Denmark accepts Nelson's offer of a ceasefire. Nelson begins to withdraw his battered fleet, past the unconquered Trichrona fort. But the damaged British ships struggle to maneuver in the narrow channel. Ganges and Monarch collide and run aground. Nelson's own ship...
Shit, even after battle, bro. That is crazy. Bro, Denmark really gave these men a bloody nose.
Elephant and Defiance also get stuck on shoals and cannot be refloated for several hours. These mishaps indicate how easily Nelson's attack might have gone badly wrong, with less preparation or skill.
That was risky, bro.
4:30 p.m. as the British are leaving, the fires reach the magazine of Dannebrog. More than 200 perish in the explosion.
There's always a big-ass explosion every single naval battle that I do.
An eerie silence descends over the waters of King's Deep, where the British bomb ships remain at anchor. Their mortars are a menacing presence, intended to influence the negotiations that lie ahead. An exhausted Nelson returns to his own ship, HMS St. George. As he takes his leave of Captain Foley, he tells him, "Well, I have fought contrary to orders, and I shall perhaps be hanged. Never mind, let them." But as the scale of
This guy, bro.
Nelson's victory emerges,
This guy, bro.
there is no chance of that. Of the 18 Danish vessels in their front line, 12 have been captured.
Wow.
Of these, Holstein is kept, becoming HMS Nassau. The rest are burned. The Danes also suffer grievous losses among their sailors, soldiers and volunteers. British losses are 254 killed and 667 wounded. 2 ships, Monarch and Isis, have to be sent home for repairs. But the rest of the fleet...
Bro, I'm telling you, that name, bro, that shit keeps throwing me off.
...is soon battle-worthy once more. The British have won the battle, but now need to secure a political victory. The ceasefire is extended as negotiations get underway. In Copenhagen, Nelson is received with a mix of admiration, curiosity and displeasure, but helps to win over his hosts by telling them the Danes fought bravely for 4 hours, where the French would not have lasted 1. 6 days after the battle, news arrives that changes everything. Paul, Emperor of Russia, is dead, murdered in his palace by army officers. With the League of Armed Neutrality's chief architect out of the picture, the Danes can negotiate with the British without fear of Russian reprisal. They quickly suspend their commitment to the League and agree a 14-week armistice with Britain. British ships can now resupply at Copenhagen and sail on to their remaining objectives in the Baltic. But the British fleet will see no further action in the Baltic that year. The death of Paul, diplomacy, and the British show of force mean the League of Armed Neutrality quickly unravels. The fleet does get a new commander, though. Parker is recalled to England. His successor is Vice Admiral Nelson. Nelson's victory at Copenhagen wins him fresh titles: Viscount and Baron Nelson of the Nile and of Burnham Thorpe, Baron Nelson of the Nile and of Hilborough. In July, he arrives back in England to be reunited with Lady Hamilton. That autumn, a preliminary peace agreement is signed with France. But in these turbulent times, peace is fleeting. Less than 2 years later, Nelson is back at sea, sailing for his date with destiny, off Cape Trafalgar.
Only 2 years, bro. Wow.
Do you want to be
Only 2 freaking years, bro. Bro, I love naval battles. Naval battles are so freaking cool. They're my favorite aspect of war. Not even kidding. Like, when I had Hoi 4, I used to play Hoi 4. I was trying to, like, understand the game before I kind of just gave up and just completely uninstalled it. Navy, bro. Navy, bro. That shit was so fun. That was genuinely, like, that was genuinely fun. Understanding Navy and just seeing it in action, like, bro, that was amazing. But if you like my reactions, if you like that reaction, if you have any videos like this that you would love to see my reaction to, you are free to comment in the comments below. Most of my channels, it's like suggestions at this point. Yo, I remember back in the day when I had to like search for videos to react to. Now people just be like, hey, react to this, react to that. I have so many videos. I'm like, okay. I just literally just go check some comments. If they're like members, you know, they're more likely to do it, which, by the way, the membership is only 99 cents a month for my active viewers there. It's literally there for my active, dedicated viewers. There's more perks that you get with the oh my god, what is that? That is sticking my ass. But there's more perks that you get with the membership, okay? So definitely go check that out. That was honestly such a good video though. That was really good. You could go check out my like Trafalgar reaction. Definitely check out my Trafalgar reaction because I talked about Nelson's history of Barbados, which is my country, of course. So definitely go check that out there. Very interesting stuff there because a lot of people don't even know that. Yeah, Nelson has a history of Barbados. So yeah. Anyways, thank you for watching and goodbye.